This week, instead of focusing on some of the larger philosophical discussions about how to use marketing automation, I really wanted to get into one of my favorite tactics, triggering out automations based on page views. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Matthew Deal. I'm a marketing automation and growth expert. And this week, I wanted to discuss something that feels a little bit more on the tactical side. Essentially, the idea is that we have people that we already know and already exist as part of our marketing automation software. We can see that they are on our website and that they're actively researching the content that we have, whether that be a blog post or a pricing page or a demo page. The point is that we have the visibility to be able to see that they've come back to the site, which is a pretty good indicator that they are at least considering our product or doing research about something that we have to offer in some way, shape, or form. One of the biggest reminders when we talk about marketing automation, it's essentially designed to be able to track contacts in a very personal way and view their behavior for you to be able to both segment and to further market to them, and typically it also has some type of sales component as well. So this week, the automation that I want to discuss is effectively very simple to execute anybody in a B2B space. Anybody that has like a sales team and that frequently has either opportunities or deals that sometimes don't work out, or we have leads that effectively become retired, which means that they just went dark. They maybe fill out a form on our website and then never came back. This automation is a great, very easy starting point for being able to build a much larger automation program in general. So here's how Pageview automations work. Essentially, we are looking for somebody to come to our website, and then we are going to send them an email re-engaging them in some way, shape, or form. Like whether that be sending them a recent pricing guide or a link to a blog post or offering to connect them with a salesperson for a meeting. The point is that we can see that somebody's visited our website on a particular time period or date, and that we are waiting a certain period of time and that we're sending an email back out to them, even if they don't fill out a form, even if they don't interact with a chat bot or give us a call. Marketing automation software allows us to be able to do that. So it's a great way to take people from a position of inaction to action. I see a lot of sales folks that do regular interactions with contacts, or even marketing folks that are just blasting out email. It's a lot of guessing to be able to say these are the most ideal times to be able to send somebody, and it's not necessarily always the most ideal for the person that's receiving it. With this, we know that they are actively thinking about our product. And because they're actively thinking about our product, we can send them an email to push them from that place of inaction to action right then. One big component of making this automation successful is building in the human element or the human aspect. It is not realistic for most organizations to have any type of employee to look and see who's visiting a website and then proactively email these people. It's a bad use of somebody's time. It's a great use of time for a marketing automation system that can do this seamlessly and automatically. But to be able to do that and to have this email be effective, we want to be able to introduce some component where it feels like an actual human being. Like they probably know that it's not, but they probably aren't thinking about it that actively. So one of the things I like to introduce is a delay. If somebody is on your site at 6 p.m. and then literally 1 minute later, they get an email from one of your sales reps because you triggered it out through automation, it doesn't feel like that a person would plausibly do that. It doesn't feel like somebody's clicking the refresh button on some page and then they decided to trigger out an email to this person. So we want to introduce delays that make it seem plausible that somebody actively thought about this email before they wrote it, that it was some type of considered approach, that they did some type of research for them. In reality, that's actually probably not going to happen, so we'll have to go with something a little bit more generic, but we want to introduce the plausibility of that. The other component of this is setting up parameters for your automation. We don't want this automation to run all the time. And there's some really big groups of people that are likely in our system that we do not want to receive this email. So one easy example is your existing customers. If your existing customer is on your pricing page, it's very unlikely that you want to trigger out a sales email to them for them to re-engage with you when they might already have an existing contract. And so one of the things that I love to do is to set this up, and HubSpot's really great at this. I'm going to set up criteria for saying, hey, there's certain groups of people that we don't want to receive this email, right? People in open opportunities or open deals, people that are actively talking to another salesperson, we don't need to trigger out an email to them. People who are our customers likely do not need to trigger out to an email to them. Leads that we know that we've already talked to and that are permanently unqualified and will always be unqualified, don't need to trigger out an email to those folks. We want to really focus it on people who have engaged and that could plausibly become customers and that have the ability to be able to translate from just being a passive user on the site to somebody we could actually do business with. The third big component from this is that these emails should actually come from people. So I'm not the biggest fan of executing this on an organizational level where it's just the name of the organization from a no reply email address. Instead, it needs to come from either the actual person that would plausibly be handling this or making up like a fake persona to do this, which is an entirely different topic that I'll talk about in a different video. But the point is that down to the structure of the email, so don't send out an email with a big CTA in it, a big call to action that feels like very marketing. This should be something that feels like a very light, kind of plain touch email with an email signature that's also resembles the email signature from the actual person, how they would actually use the organization. Because the thing is, if these people reply back to these emails and they should be replying back to that person who sent the email, then the conversation needs to continue and needs to continue in a way that feels organic and it feels smooth. So it's one of those things that we want to have there as well. And the last component is really trying to be able to, again, go back to parameters. Think about how you would respond to an email and how serious you would be able to break through your email blindness when you receive one of these automated emails, right? Don't have your emails execute out when people are asleep. So if someone comes at 2 or 3 in the morning and your customer lives in the same time zone as you, it doesn't make sense for them to receive an email at 4 or 5 in the morning. Have that email execute between what your normal business hours usually operate at. We want to make this feel personal and feel like a person in every way, shape, or form that we can. Our last situation to consider when we're building automation like this is avoiding any situation in which we could have a weird interaction. So a lot of your suppression lists or a lot of your rules for saying these are the types of people who we never want to receive this automation will handle this issue. But there are other situations in which you do need to account for the continuous nature of marketing automation. And I'll give a good example. So let's say that we set up the simplest version of this automation, which was simply when somebody has a page view that we automatically send them an email within 5 minutes that says, hey, I'm Sally, can I help you out in choosing this particular ad product or answer any questions for you or anything else like that. And Sally gets that email on a Monday because she visited on a Monday. If you don't set up rules correctly, this exact same email is going to trigger out on a Wednesday when she comes back to the site. So then at that point, the game is up. Like, she knows that this is not an actual person that's engaging with her. This is just some kind of automated feature that exists. And so generally what I like to do is to set these up for single use. So these are one-time use interaction emails that will only exist one time. They would only receive this email one time. And at the point in which I want to say, hey, I want to trigger out an email the second time they come and visit, that's a whole different separate process and automation that we need to account for. But don't introduce situations in which people are getting the literal exact same email based on some user behavior, because if you don't account for that, it will 100% put them into that system. The one last thing I want to mention is that all marketing automation systems effectively work in the same way. You cannot trigger actions based on somebody visiting your site unless they have a previous form submission or there's cookie data that exists in your MA system to be able to track them. So you will have and do have some percentage of visitors who are anonymous, that the MA system, whether it's HubSpot, Pardot, Drip, ActiveCampaign, whatever, they can't recognize because they didn't have that initial form submission. So this is really for people that are in your ecosystem in some way, but they're not per se customers for whatever reason. So even though that we've talked about a lot of specific strategy in this video, I'm going to put up a blog post that'll give you a breakdown of how this plays out. Feel free to visit the website. I've got other videos and guides and resources which will help you in both thinking about how you can leverage MA to improve growth for your organization or just improve your skill set. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all so much.